Hello everyone, welcome back to the Solo Skull Rush tournament. Once again, back with another match in the round of 32 going into the weekend. We've got none other than Seed 7 Naaaad going up against Seed 39 Tomskuu. So both of these players have made it out of a clean round of 64 victory so far. Tomskuu made it out using with a forfeit, I believe, and Naaaad also winning off against the likes of Mixter. So once again, both these players are going to be facing here in the winner's bracket. They're going to be contesting as to who's going to be remaining in the winner's bracket for the time being. But before we get on to that, I'm your commentator and Epic Man 2, and joining alongside is going to be none other than Nightcore. What is rockin'?
Hello, Epic Man, and really good to be commentating with you for this match. So, as we can already look by these two players, there is a fairly noticeable seeding difference. Seed 7 versus Seed 39. Just looking off from their statistics alone, you can already kind of analyze what these players will definitely capitalize off. And kind of looking from Naad's case, definitely a lot more well-rounded, but a bit more proficient on that rice. If we can look at that statistic sheet real quickly. Okay. Getting around that 980, getting around that 980 average for a lot of those maps, and on most of the rice as well, getting that 990 range. Probably most noticeable, getting that first place on our stage 6, which I do believe that is our mixed rice or technical. But
Yeah, it's
that's
like
not
a jack map.
Yeah. One of the harder maps, so definitely going to be more the physical player to be looking out for. So meanwhile, if we look over at Tomskuu, I think there is already a very noticeable weakness that will be showing in them. And we are kind of holding them a bit back when it does come to their seeding. And probably for this match, only getting around 811k on stage 8 and 800k as well on stage 5. So I could potentially see Rice versus Ellen matchup here if Naad just wants to be safe, but anything can happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, like, especially having scooted over these two players' scores, that there is a very fair discrepancy between both these players when it comes to Rice, and that both of them are insanely physical. I mean, even that can be an understatement. And whereas, like, I know Tomskuu isn't as well versed when it comes to Ellen as in comparison to Naaaad, like, especially throughout the early games. So I have a feeling that both these players are going to go for the initial bans on LN maps, even though there's only really like 3 of them on the board, and even after that, they're gonna have to pick a different map to ban afterwards if it does like reach the case where there's only. Okay, what was I saying? They can both ban LN maps, but then they're gonna have to like ban something else that's not an LN map, if I remember the rules correctly, right? When we reach the second ban phase.
I think you would be right. We're just kind of resetting the laser client to get the chat synced up, so we will have all those. We will have what they have protected ban with you after. So I would not be too surprised if Tomskuu would be banning one of the LNs. See, the question that kind of does raise with me is the LNs here, compared to what we have seen from our qualifiers, they are a lot more release oriented. Of course, as if you do see LN1 and even especially LN3, where it just is an onslaught of all those technical scatters, pretty much. Even LN2 being somewhat release oriented as well. I think I think if those scores from Tomskuu do prevail with him through the qualifiers as well, this match could end this match could end early. But as we are looking from here, Tomskuu banning LN1, not actually banning Rice 5. I think those bans are really strong from both players. Though I think LN3 would have been also another decent option for Tomskuu in this scenario. But now just jumping into hybrid 3, gonna be, I do believe, our stream-oriented hybrid slaughter. So we'll have to see how both these players do fare on the hybrid.
Yeah, absolutely. Both these bands are definitely quite favorable in my opinion. I mean, LN1 definitely makes sense as a good band for Tomskuu, and also Rise 5 is a bit of an interesting band. I mean, knowing that both these players are insanely physical, it would definitely make sense that Naaaad would at least want to save an Ellen band for later. But especially skimming over Tomskoo's scores, they definitely have like quite a bit of an edge when it comes to really physical maps, especially with the likes of Cortex Charger. So with both these players starting off on slow, so definitely going to be a bit of a going to, I guess, be the starter for this match, as we can see, going to amplify who's going to be at least kickstarting the match off, who's going to be getting the initial points. But so far, both these players just seem really balanced in terms of the score lead and also just whereabouts they are. It's only really just going to come down to very minuscule misjudgments, if anything.
So kicking off for the intro, we can already see that both players are pretty much equalized when it does come to accuracy. But this is only the intro where the releases will not really start rocking in until now. And you can already see it. Tomskuu actually dropping a few 200s and that combo break as well, which when their LNs come in, yeah, they're not really as comfy with some of the releases, dropping down to that low 99 mark. And this isn't even the Ki where, we're going to be seeing a lot more of those dump patterns when we do get into our main Ki with that 1/6 and 1/8 aspect as well. So we're going to have to see both players and see how they do manage when it does come to the Ki. Again, score difference does kind of matter a lot. So Tomskuu just kind of has to keep on to that combo if they do not want the difference prevailing too high.
Yeah, going into the first course, it seems like both these players have a very fair edge around them. Not going to be taken on the upper hand of things. Tomskuu quite a fair margin behind because of some misses from earlier on. Not going to be able to recover in time unless Naaaad manages to find some misses of their own, especially with the fact that both these players are really consistent when it comes to at least going for a lot of these patterns. It's just really the misjudgments on the side of Tomskuu in terms of like releasing it a little too late or early. But even then, it's really hard to at least maintain consistency with patterns like these, where you just have to, where players are just really bound to just rush in between patterns and whatnot, and especially with how hard it is to transition between each one of them.
And with the outro of the map, Tomskuu is going to get that final combo break. And when we do get to the outro, it is pretty similar to the intro. So I really doubt there'd be any score differences here. But as we do end off with that around 28,000 score difference, going to be giving Naaaad the upper hand by a decent margin from the start. But I think Tomskuu can still definitely pull this around in their favor. Again, it was Naaad's pick, so for Tomskuu, maybe they could probably just jump into one of the races and they could probably see if they can turn things around, which I would not be too surprised that they'd be going for something similar to Rice 5. So I'd probably guess something like Rice 3 or Rice 4, but I think anything else is on the board. But if you want to go for your safer picks early on, I would say those two would be your best option.
Yeah, absolutely. But even then, knowing Tomskuu, there's only really like a few options unless they also want to go for some of the maps that are at least closer to a Rice map in the hybrid category. Okay.
Well, is there 2 ego trips?
All in R, because it's so good. There had to be 2 of them.
Okay, race 3. Alright, race 3.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay. All right, go on.
Alright, I'm not really too surprised that Tomskuu has picked this. So, I mixed Rice Jack-oriented pick. One of the more frowned upon maps I have seen from a couple of matches where a lot of people tend to ban something like this, especially more the lesser physical capable players. Again, I'm not really too surprised. It's 156 BPM and you have a lot of those, and it's pretty much Jack Central, pretty much. And when you get like into the second half as well, you have those one-hand oriented patterns and even some broken hand stream at times as well.
Yeah, going to this map, I believe this is still one of the more Jack-oriented wildcards we have in the pool. So definitely going into that field. But so far, this one literally just Are we reviewing cows or are we reviewing expos? I'm so confused.
And as we're already beginning, kind of see off for the first quarter, actually pretty equal right now, but this is only with the first quarter, when we will be seeing some of those 1/6 and even some 1/8 stream bursts later in the map where it does go up to that 300 BPM range. We will see if both these players will be able to transition in and out well from these. Also when the jacks do become heavier, as we are also seeing some of those free no anchors, which I think both players are still holding on very well to, but you'll never know. A 200 could just swing things over towards either side.
Yeah, especially with the fact that Tomskuu, I believe, I've been taking a bit of a break there. That's going to give Naaaad at least a few hundred points to breathe from. But even then, the lead is very unstable for Naaaad. Both these players are extremely consistent. It's really just going to boil down to who can at least get the least amount of misjudgments. But even then, it's really just about watching the amount of bursts that there are inside of this map alone, which there is a hefty amount of those. But Naad's going to be taking the first miss that's going to bring the lead over to the side of Tomskuu for the time being. There's only one part of the map left, and the second drop ball that is going to objectify the nail in the coffin for Naad's lead, unless Tomskuu starts to as well.
This is the saving grace that Tomskuu needs with that 10,000 point lead. Can they bring it back? The map does start to get heavier with some more of those angry streams. 100k points of the map left. Naaaad getting back up to that max combo count, but with the accuracy difference, I don't think it's going to be pulling anything back towards that final burst at the end, and Tomskuu has done it. They are going to be taking that score advantage of 11,000 and running off, despite with that double-digit 200 from Naaaad. It's going to be Tomskuu taking that with that V1 SS 995.6k. Very impressive scores from both players, but that combo control from Tomskuu was a lot stronger on that end. And I definitely now see why it was Naaaad who decided to ban Rice 5.
Absolutely. I think really it's just about who has the here, but even then, neither of these players are safe when it comes to a lot of these more intrusive mistakes that may come out of certain maps. Also unrelated. Did you know one of my mates from college was met at Comic-Con, like literally multiple moments ago? The guy that made ASDF movie, whatever.
Okay, so it looks like Naaaad is going to be resorting to Rice 1. I think, yeah, Naaaad is going to be resorting to Rice 1. Going to be XLR. I'm going to be XLR stream pick. And I'm not really too sure how to feel about this, honestly. I think playing Rice 1 is playing it a bit too safe. Especially that, that Tomskuu definitely can hold a run when it does come to stream. But maybe Naaaad has other plans, maybe to try to take that higher point lead. Oh no, never mind, it's Tomskuu's pick.
Yeah.
Wait. Oh, right, I forgot.
ABBA.
Yeah, ABBA. Okay, so Tomskуу's actually going to be picking this. So, again, I think this is morely one of the safer picks I think that Tomskuu can play. Especially that I think Tomskuu just has to resort to picking or just Rice for most of this match.
Yeah, I have no idea what exactly it's saying in the background. All right. Okay, so once again, going into the next map, going into the third map of the round, Exile. Both these players so far have a pretty decent following. Naaaad with a bit better of a following in comparison to Tomskuu, but even then, while both these players still continue with the Rice picks, there is still a lot of open opportunities for both these players to really just snag the lead from one another, especially with this one being the speed-oriented pick. I would not be surprised if this one is going to be at least 320 ppm streams, especially just knowing the song. I mean, everyone basically knows the song by heart, and as we can see, going into this burst so far, Naaad's going to be hacking the absolute living crap out of these streams right here. Tomskuu still managing really well with these streams, just bar some of these like intrusive yellow 300s as well. That's going to really add such a pretty heavy difference between both these players in terms of accuracy, especially struggling with like some of these transitions.
I would say Tomskuu not as comfortable in acting streams compared to what we have seen from Naaaad, hitting a slight bit later, but we'll have to see when we do get into our next two big drops, where we're going to be seeing a lot more of those trills and some of those midi jacks and some of those split frill transitions as well, which both are still holding on very well to, but with that score difference of only 2,000 points heading into the final drop, where we are only going to be increasing the brutality of these streams. We'll have to see if anything major happens with what we are going to be seeing with the ending.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not really much time on the map left as it goes into the final 8. So far, the accuracy have remained the same for both these players. It's really just down to Tomskuu to at least hang in tight and pray for at least some kind of misjudgment on the side of Naaaad. But I don't think there's going to be enough time that allows for as it ends on the final jump and Naaaad in with the 997k and only one great as well to spare. Tomskuu pulling off such a fair fight as well, barred the 7,000 point difference. Holy damn.
As you could probably see from the ending, Tomskuu definitely dropped a lot of those 200s on that final burst. But even then, without the 200s, I don't think much would have changed. Maybe the score difference would have been slightly smaller. But now heading into map 4, I do believe, I think the second ban is going to be... Oh no, never mind. This is going to be the 4th map. So I'm not actually going to be jumping into Rise 4, and I'm entirely not really too sure what to think about this. Now, I think this might be a bit too safe, but we have seen what Tomskuu was capable of Rise 3, but I think maybe just trying to follow the format of taking advantage of that weakness in Rise 1 from Tomskuu. I think maybe that's probably what Naaaad is trying to go for here, after just seeing that and taking advantage of the fact that they did win Rise 1.
Yeah, but even then, like, I feel that at this point it's becoming more riskier to use some of these rice maps because, again, there's only 4 maps in the rice category that could be used, and with this one being the second to last one to be used, the only one that is left is none other than Snowdrive. So I feel like after this pick, both these players are gonna have to really pick carefully because at this point they're gonna have to at least delve into some of the hybrids as well as a sacrifice, or to at least find picks that are at least potentially closer to the rice maps in question. But even then, this one going to be a bit of a more technical pick in comparison. It's only 2 minutes long, so not too much time for both these players to really try and snag the point off one of each other. But even then, from what I can see, there's a lot of pretty odd direction patterns incorporated in this one. Some of these jacks, some of these bursts as well. But so far, both these players are doing a really fantastic job of being able to act through them pretty well. It's really just, I mean, I haven't seen a map myself going into the first third, but I would assume that this is going to at least get pretty dense like later on.
Oh, definitely. And especially now that we're at the halfway point of the map, where we're going to be seeing a lot more of those, longer 1/8 bursts up to 270 BPM. Even some flams inside as well at that 1/9 range. And even some of those anchors as well, which can throw off the players if they're not really too careful. But still, both players showing no signs of fatigue at all. Not holding on to that 99.9, Tomskuu holding on to that 99.8, but I think at this point, Tomskuu definitely has to kind of rely on Naaaad taking a nosedive in that accuracy if they do want to kind of snag the points back over towards them. But what really I can see from now, I think it's not really happening. But things could change when we do get into this anchor part, where I'm aware that this is one more of the brutal sections of this map, but both players still holding on to it very well. We just had the outro left at this point where it's just going to be raining down on streams at you. Anything can still happen as we roll into the final few notes, but that score difference and just both players not showing any signs of fatigue at all.
Once again, Naaaad being able to make it out with such a clean score as well, despite a lot of what the map has thrown at both these players. Naaaad's going to be the one reign victorious over this map. 114 perfects of a ratio with a 997k score. So now both these players going to be banning once again. Naaaad's going to be getting the first ban as well. So we're going to have to see at least another. We're gonna have to see him ban an LN because there's just no way that he can use the rice slot.
No, I probably disagree with that. I think Snowdive would be a very sufficient ban for Naaaad. Especially, you're gonna exhaust all the rice picks that Tomskuu takes advantage of. So when there's no rice left, that kind of raises the red flag for Tomskuu and what they're going to pick. We have seen their performance on Hybrid, which they weren't really able to keep up their combo with. And judging by the fact that they've banned one the LNs as well, that can still hold on to LN3 or even LN2 in this scenario as well, and maybe be able to kind of hold on and be able to kind of get that score difference up to that 50,000 point lead where they will knock Tomskuu down. But banning LN2 is very interesting. I think definitely that we have. Well, I'm not too sure on what Tomskuu does. Kind of more falter on.
I mean, it definitely makes all the more sense that I think Tomskuu would opt in for banning LN density as well. It's just that I would have expected them to ban the technical LN map as well, which is Fiesta, I believe. But even then, that leaves only 3 maps on the board, as we can see here. So only 2 hybrids and 1 LN, which both of these players are going to have to fight on because now that all the rice maps are gone, 2 of them banned, 3 of them already played earlier on. They're gonna really have to try and figure out what weapons they can make out of just raw material alone.
What really confuses me more is if you ban LN1, which is our coordination pick, it probably is more the sign of finding that finding the release weakness a bit, that you probably aren't really too confident with the releases. But LN3 is pretty much that, but cranked up to 11. So I think LN3 would have been a better ban for Tomskuu, but I think LN2 will suffice for now. But now with Tomskuu having not really much options left in their comfy spot, Hybrid 1 is going to be picked, and I think this is probably the best pick for Tomskuu. Kind of being around more tiebreaker focus and very technical, which we do know that tech is one of Tomskoo's sweet spots.
Yeah, I think as long as there is anything technical left in the pool itself, then it should be good. Maybe not the LN free pick, because once again, LN is not really the sweetest of spots for Tomskuu here, but even then, with I think this one is at least one of the few compromises that Tomskuu can at least hang on to. Because I think at this state, it's going to be really important knowing the fact that there is no rice maps left, especially with the fact that that is one of the comfort zones for both of these players, as much as it was such a battle of risks here between each other.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Okay, but now heading into this map, going to be actually our longest map, clocking in 2 minutes 58, just underneath that 3-minute time, and has a lot you have to focus on this map. Dense jump stream, tech, mini jacks, BPM changes. We'll see that now when we just cap off this intro, starting off with the jump stream, and I think both players going to be very comfortable with most of the right sections in the map. It's going to be a bit more interesting when we do see when we introduce some of the long notes in the mix as well.
Yeah, hopefully nobody chokes on some of these Ellens as well, because of the fact that this is going to be one of the most important maps for either of these players so far. But not to be taking with not taking the first miss, it's going to bring the lead over to the side of Tomskuu, managing to be able to go for a lot of these Ellens and keeping that combo intact. But even then, there's still a lot of map left. This is only but the first quarter before they go into this more complexion-oriented section. Tomskuu going to be missing right on the transition as well, as the score flickers a bit, but goes back onto the side of Naaaad here.
I think the drops on Tomskuu's side, especially finding that second drop as well, is hurting their accuracy a lot more compared to what we have seen with Naaad's drops. And when the hybrid just keeps rolling in, Tomskuu is just going to be struggling to find any footing on this section. As we do get into the halfway point, we still have the mini jack section coming up very shortly, so we'll have to see if Tomskuu can be able to capitalize off this. Going into this without the max combo cap is not really going to be helping Tomskuu in any favors, but we can just see now as the shields, the mini jacks at that 118 BPM range do roll in, and I think just not holding on to that, especially with that score lead now, if they can hold on to this combo, they can end this match pretty early on if they keep having that performance like this. But we still have the final quarter of the map where we do get that next BPM change back to the original BPM. But then but the thing is, the last section is just going to be LN density focused, which we do know that Tomskuu is pretty weak on. The score lead only increasing up to that 50k point lead as well, which is not really going to be looking like any favors for Tomskuu when we do get to the outro. Even holding on to the full combo at this point, not much it would change on their favor, just looking how consistent that is, despite finding some of those 200s on those sections.
Yeah, once again, not being able to manage with a lot of these patterns, despite what's been thrown at you. Tomskuu has literally messing up on a lot of these LN-oriented sections that is going to bring Naaaad over the 50k score cap. And I think that is going to spell them victory if all goes well for them, especially the fact that this is one of the final maps that get to be chosen. But once again, Naaad's going to be the next in line to choose once again. But is there really much opportunities for Tomskuu to be able to climb the lead back and at least make it equal? Because at this point, it's going to have to take Naaaad just taking a map by such a massive loss, and especially going for Ellen free. This is going to literally be the spear going in Tomskuu's chest here, unless Tomskuu manages to bring out a shield somehow, somewhere.
Tomskuu has to get Tomskuu has to get at least around 16,000 points of a victory if they do want to keep the head over water for the tiebreaker. But even then, with that score difference, it is very unlikely that even Tomskuu would be able to get the score difference back over in the tiebreaker. But the problem is that this is Tomskuu's kryptonite, pretty much heading into pretty much an LN gauntlet. That testy release just gonna be probably our most brutal map when it does come to technicality and LN for this week, even though there's only one LN tech map this week. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, what is there even to say? I mean, we know that like this map is basically one of the final choices for both these players. This may as well just be the ultimate deciding factor for both of these players, deciding who's even going to be staying, in which I feel it is favoring Naaaad a lot more here, knowing that they are at least still credible when it comes to a lot of these LN maps in general. Especially in a 1v1 scenario, this is the one thing that a lot of players just literally struggle with a lot. Just the fact that being able to keep the right balance as a hybrid player, especially, which is something that you're going to need when it comes to a lot of these maps where it just has so much incorporated, especially with some of these greats from the side of Tomskuu. Naaaad is still yet to take some fatal misjudgments, and Tomskuu taking the first miss as well. You might already be spelled.
It's MF Doom, like the artist. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Looking now in the halfway point, where we're just going to be getting a lot heavier on some of those column releases. A lot more of those staggers are being shown, which I think Tomskuu can hold on a bit with that unstable break, but kind of find those stray 200s here and there, as long as things don't really get too dense for them. But it's just kind of matching this up with some of the flams as well in the map, where as we are heading into the final third, it is going to be a lot more column and coordination heavy, as we are seeing here, with only the final quarter left and that 14,000 score difference. Can Tomskuu hold on to the final section and get that lead? They need 30,000 points at this point if they do want to keep their head above water. As they do get to that final break, finding that 50 combo break before the final drop is not really going to be helping them in any favors, as the score lead just keeps increasing. Naaaad has been holding on to this map very well. 99.74 on this technical nightmare. Very impressive scores from both players. Even Tomskuu holding on very well at 99.2, underestimating his LN capabilities actually.
I think at this point you've basically just said like everything else that I was going to say. I mean, just the fact that the map is already over and there isn't really much else to say here. Not going over the 100k score cap, and now it is beyond recoverable for Tomskuu now at this point, especially with this one being the final map. I guess it is safe to say that it's over. The final map has been played out. The final cards have been played out from the side of Tomskuu, despite managing to win off of an incredible rice-free victory. It is going to be going to none other than Naaaad, going into the round of 16 next week, while Tomskuu is knocked down into the losers bracket.
So really well played to both players. Yeah, just well played to both players in general. I definitely underestimated Tomskuu when it does come to their accuracy, especially in the LNs, able to hold their own on the long no picks. But when you are facing an MWC player like Naaaad, that was a really good fight I think Tomskuu had put up, and I cannot wait to see how both these players do perform next week. Tomskuu in the losers bracket, where if I can just bring up the bracket real quick. Okay, Tomskuu will be facing Old Pigeon in the losers bracket, while Naaaad will be advancing on to be facing the winner of Mini Egg versus that Beast. So that's going to be next week, so stay tuned for that. And what match we do have next, I will quickly check that as well.
Next should be Music Pad versus... Actually, no, it should be Stereotype versus Very Sour in about an hour from now.
All right.
An hour and a half, yeah. 12 UTC.
Gonna be another very interesting matchup. I do know that Stereotype is definitely a very strong contender when it does come to stuff like Mini World Cups, so gonna be interesting to see how that plays out as well. But for now, I think that's pretty much it with this match. So do you have anything else you'd like to say before we do sign off?
Double bacon cheeseburger.
As always.
All right, fine. I'll figure out new lines for the next time. See what happens.
I was gonna say two hybrid twos.
Hybrid.
Okay.
So good it had to be played out twice, but yeah, we can just end it there.
All right. So yeah, I guess we could just sign off for now. Again, taking that quick break. So see you in an hour, or however long the next match is. But you'll get the ping when it's ready.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see you then. Be there, be square. Have a great day.